My name is Paul Rosethal, and I made a film called Crooked Beauty, and it won the award for Best Short, Artivist Spirit. And the film explores positive models for the experience of madness in Western culture.
Really? So how did you decide to make this movie? Why tell this story?
Well, like a lot of projects, you don't make a decision to make them. They decide that they want you along for the ride. They sort of find you. The hero of my film, Jax McNamara, produced a magazine from her organization called the Icarus Project. And it was laying around the house, and I just picked it up and read it. And her story so deeply moved me, like nothing I had ever been moved by before. She spoke about the experience of light and the rapture and the rage in her head in a way that consecrated the polarities of mania and depression and light and dark, both visually and metaphorically, as sort of a way of embracing and speaking about madness, that I was deeply, deeply inseminated with inspiration. Like, the vision for this project had never been so thoroughly consumed. I had never been so thoroughly consumed by a project before, and that was it. And then I sought her out, and we made the film.
Now, being on the outside of this, because unfortunately I haven't seen the film, did you feel like, oh really, great, awesome. There are a lot of kind of negative kind of stereotypes out there about mental illness.
Right.
Did you also hope to contribute to more kind of positive?
Absolutely, which is why I described it as a film that explores positive and compassionate models. It doesn't, my film does not romanticize madness in any way. It doesn't mythologize the mad genius, but it suggests that rather than the disease model of mental health struggles, rather than saying madness is just about biochemistry and psychiatry or ascribing your symptoms to something that's diagnosable in the DSM manual, that in fact there's the dangerous gift model, that if we have the right community, mentorship, and tools, we can actually harness these things that in our culture become pathologized and actually not break down but break through.
Great. Now, you were holding up a DVD, but for people who want to learn more about the film, or can you tell us about any future screenings, where can people go to find out more about your film?
Well, I've got a website, www.crookedbeauty.com, and it's been extremely successful. I've been touring with it nonstop all over North America for the last year. I present at hospitals, in psych wards, in peer recovery support networks, psychology departments and universities. I've been in some jails, and I go to art schools and certainly plenty of symposia as well. And I'm now leaving to do a tour in Europe in a week. And it's just an international experience I've been having, bringing this around the world, because madness is not just about something that people who are insane experience. Madness is sort of like, in the same sense there's gay pride, there's mad pride. It's about reclaiming what it means to be authentic. And I'm not saying to be mad is to be authentic, but the way we talk about madness is a way of reclaiming what it means to be authentic in a culture that really is very homogenizing, has a very narrow rubric or standard of what normalcy is. And that is very limiting, and it's very crazy making. If we don't have the car and the house and the family and the kids, or we haven't achieved a certain amount of career or monetary success, those things in our culture are markers of normalcy. But the pursuit of those things can actually be crazy making. We all know what it's like to feel oppressed by losing our job, losing a relationship, someone dies that was close to you, your car breaks down, or we've been at war for how many years, and how is that leaching resources from our culture that could be going to the very bedrock of what health and wellness is, which is education. And all those things are crazy making in our culture, and we all experience them. So my film has a very broad embrace of what it means to be well, what it means to be insane, in fact, and what it doesn't mean to be insane. And in that respect, the way we speak about these things affects the way we think about them. So when you talk about stigma and stereotypes being perpetuated, as a media maker, it's really important to me to give people not only new pictures, but new ways to speak about the experience of mental health distress.
Well, that's great that your film is getting so much exposure. That's great. It sounds like it's entertaining, but also very educational at the same time.
It's very educational, and it's very compassionate. I did a lot of research into other documentaries about mental health struggles, and either they suffer. I mean, they're all great films; they needed to be made, but just the way we speak about people of color has changed over the years. These things have to happen incrementally, and the same thing with the way in our popular culture we speak about mental health struggles. And the films I've seen out there were too much about damage and despair and the mad other. And I wanted to make a portrait of inclusion, not otherness. So in my film, you don't see the woman speaking. We just hear her testimony over these very, very lyrical images, which, as I mentioned, have a lot of light and shadow in them. They're both images of rapture and rage, but intertwined in a way that's very, very poetic, and actually just feels very good to see. We all go to nature to get away, but we also don't realize that we don't need to get away to nature. I mean, our inner natures are very much aligned with outer nature, and there's a fundamental disconnect by ensconcing ourselves in these virtual environments, be it computer or offices, and under those harsh lights, and all those things really cut deeply in terms of the way we were sort of raised in tandem with the natural phenomena of the world. So my film has a lot of this imagery, and people come out of there and experience throughout it a sense of well-being and integration. But at the core of it is this really strong social justice message about what it means to be diagnosed, labeled, pathologized as diseased and damaged versus what gifts do I have possibly? What new information can I learn about myself and my community by what information is there for me to learn if I embrace it more holistically, as opposed to just putting in this rubric of you're ill.
Right. Well, I want to talk about Artivist for a second too. How important do you think it is to have film festivals like this one that combine kind of the artist and advocacy?
Well, you need a new word for important. It's critical. It's really critical. What I like about this festival is it sort of operates in that soft place between the head and the heart. It's not about sort of it's not about polemicizing and screaming about how fucked up things are. Oh, can that be said?
That's all right. I'll edit around you.
All right. It's not so much about polemicizing about how damaged we are as a global community, but it's about saying, here's opportunity for us. Here's a place to go that is more aligned with our authentic promise as human beings, opposed to just like dealing with our sloppy problems. And that's why I say that soft spot between the head and the heart. I see this festival as not overly romanticizing, not overly polemicizing, but really speaking to people at the level of what we can do as individuals, and how if we're fulfilled as individuals, then we can contribute globally.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks a lot. That was great. Out of my own curiosity, are you a documentary filmmaker, or? I
don't think I call myself a documentary filmmaker. I call myself an artist who makes documentary films. Right. But this is my first documentary that I've made, and when you see it, you'll see that it's really a piece. It's a piece of fine art, as well as a tool for social justice. I really, I think, very skillfully combined the two, and very consciously. I wanted to make something that was really beautiful to look at without glossing over these really critical issues. And I think actually people are more sort of permeable by virtue of it not being really hard-hitting and an angry film, because that would just make people upset. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get under people's skins and have this woman's testimony be a touchstone for their own struggles, and hopefully by the end of the film come out and feel transformed and empowered to go to places they may not have otherwise gone before. And I think that's what's good about this festival. It's empowering people to do things they would not have otherwise done before they entered the screening room.